Welcome to Stories of Fatal Encounters. Who killed JonBenet Ramsey? This case has completely shook the nation. This 6-year-old girl's picture was plastered all over magazines and created a nationwide fear because she was murdered in her own home on December 26, 1996, in Boulder, Colorado. This case is still unsolved, and no one has been charged in her fatal encounter. The story that the Ramsey told started on Christmas morning when they opened presents. Later that night, they went to a friend's house for dinner. Upon arriving back at home, John Ramsey set the alarm and put his daughter to bed. Patsy, JonBenet's mother, woke up in the morning, walked down the stairs, and came across a 3-page ransom letter requesting 118,000 for JonBenet. Patsy ran to find to see if JonBenet was missing and screamed for her husband, John. Patsy called 911. When police arrived, John took Burke, their other son, to a friend's house, and they called friends to come over for support. As their friends were waiting around, they started to clean the Ramsey house. As the police investigated, there were no footprints outside, no forced entry, and the window in the basement was open. Ransom stated that someone would call around 10 a.m. After no one called to give demands for the ransom, police decided they would have them search the house for anything else missing or that was out of place. John decided to go to the basement in a room and past the boiler room to find JonBenet wrapped in a blanket, had duct tape covering her mouth and hands tied. He proceeded to remove the duct tape from her mouth and carry her lifeless body up the stairs. JonBenet was strangled and had a large fractured skull. There was blood found in her underwear and unknown male DNA.
The first things first is how on the ransom note, why they put $118,000 that they demanded $118,000. Go ahead.
The only connection that they found to that dollar amount, which even for back then is not that much money to kidnap a child. Um, but they did determine that John Ramsey's bonus for that year was equal to 118,000. So is it someone that knew that he had gotten this bonus or jealous? In this case, there's kind of been two theories. Is someone within those four walls did it, or an intruder came in and did it? But
Right.
neither has been proven, and this is why there's no charges.
Well, it narrows down the actual search, not for nothing, that $118,000 is a very weird dollar amount. First things first, the exact number. So it has to be somebody that knows how much he got for his bonus of that year, $118,000. And it's someone that actually is recently, because again, you get your bonus towards the end of the year. So you're talking about it's Christmas time. So he just got his bonus somewhere down the line. I don't think it tells us exact date when he received his bonus.
Um, in his, in his own interviews, which there's been a lot of back and forth within his own interviews, but he had
Right,
stated that he was getting like a small portion on every paycheck. It wasn't like a lump sum.
right.
And that had been listed on his pay stub like the entire year. But they never really, outside of that one comment, they never really talk about it again. I do know that when Patsy was questioned if she knew about his bonus, she had stated she had no idea what his bonus was or how much it was, which I think is a little odd. Your partner, even if she's a stay-at-home mom, which she was, you don't know that your husband got this big bonus at the end of the year or throughout the year. I think it's a little odd that she wouldn't know because she acted as if she didn't know about the bonus at all, not the dollar amount, but didn't know about it at all, which I think is odd.
All right, so let's just say that they don't. He's a sole provider of the house, and he doesn't communicate about his actual financial taken home. It's odd, but it's not the impossible. What's even more odd is JonBenet, the night that JonBenet dies. So the Ramseys bring her back home from a party.
No, they had
I
dinner
think
with a friend's house,
they had,
which the
they had
friends
dinner at the friend's house.
have never been released to public, at least not that I could find their names or who
Right,
they are, if they've ever been investigated. I could not find any record of who this friend's house was, but he claims to have taken her out of the car because she had fallen asleep in the car and put her to bed.
right.
And that was the last time she was seen alive.
Right. So the main thing about this is that there's a couple of things. There's a lot of holes in the Ramsey story. The first thing I have to tackle before we move on is that there was a bowl inside the kitchen. There was a bowl of pineapple, and when autopsy was done for JonBenét's body, she had pineapple in her body. So the bowl of the pineapple also had Patsy Ramsey's fingerprints all over it, like she actually served the pineapple to JonBenet.
Right.
Now,
And
if this,
and
go
they
ahead.
all stated, I mean, Patsy stated, John stated, Burke stated, her brother, John Benet's brother, had stated that
Right,
they went to bed. There was no conversation about, okay, they sat down and had a snack before bed, which I mean, if you have kids, you know, like it happens where they're hungry and you're like, all right, have some fruit. At least it's
right,
not as bad as something more filling. But they all kind of played the part that he put her to bed and that was it. And maybe John Bonet got up herself, went down and made herself her own bowl of fruit, but where were her fingerprints on that bowl?
exactly. It's only Patsy Ramsey's fingerprints on the ball.
Right.
Thank you.
And
That's a,
going back to the ransom, a 3-page ransom note is an extremely long ransom note. If you're in someone's house to kidnap a child, why are you writing the three
okay.
page ransom note?
So this is another red flag. Let's just paint the picture over here. So, all right, the Ramsey said that, or from the Ramsey point of story, is that somebody came in the house, broke inside the house while they're sleeping, went went to John Bonet's room, kidnapped John Bonet, wrote a ransom note, or wrote a ransom note before kidnapping John Bonet, vice versa, put it on the cell, a 3-page ransom note in the dark, mind you, because it's in the middle of the night, in the dark, with a ransom note. So they had to have a flashlight to write a ransom note. Now, the ransom note itself, why then Intruder didn't write the ransom note before they actually invaded the house? Why they wrote the ransom note inside the house? Now, there's two things that regards to the ransom note. The first thing is the pen and the paper is Patsy Ramsey's.
It's her notebook. They had two notebooks that they would write messages in, like phone messages. John had one, she had one. It was in her notebook with her pen. And maybe that's the one that was easier access. They grabbed, they did do handwriting comparison. It was inconclusive
Right.
to the other notes that were within that notebook that Patsy had written herself. It did not match John's either.
Or the person disguised their handwriting as well.
Right. And I know that handwriting experts, I mean, it's one of those kind of fields that can be taken either way, kind of like a lie detector test. Like some people believe they're super reliable, some believe they don't. And I know handwriting is one of those things that people can easily fake. I mean, there's people out there that can write with right and left hand, and
Right, right. Agreed, great.
so like it's one of those types of testing that isn't super like reliable or been found to be reliable, but it is just interesting that it's on her notebook, her pen, the bowl of fruit has her fingerprints on it.
Fingerprints,
The
which they
other thing,
denied. They also said, again, you have to go back to the beginning of what we started this episode. They said that John said that he brought his daughter straight to the bedroom and put her to sleep. Period. There's nothing about pineapple at all.
right. And the other
So go ahead.
thing is when they had their friends over to comfort them, support, whatever you want to say, why they invited a whole bunch of friends into the house. They also were all touching the ransom letter. All of those people that were there
Right.
were passing it around and reading it. And not only that, they started
Oh,
cleaning the house. The friends started cleaning the house, wiping down the counters in the kitchen. All of,
okay. Before we get to this, let's tackle the ransom note and what the Ramses put together and insinuated what happened that night. Right? We're gonna get to the friends in a second. Come over to the house. The ransom note. The first thing with the ransom note is that why would somebody write a 3-page ransom note? Period.
inside the
And
house.
inside the
I
house.
could understand if there was a reason you had a three-page ransom note and you wrote it prior to coming. But the other
Right,
question is, whoever did it also murdered this little girl. And why write a ransom note if you're not going to get paid anyways? I mean, it's not like you took the body outside the house that they don't know that she's already deceased.
right.
She's she's in the house. So, did the ransom go wrong? They wrote the note, put it on the stairs, took her, it go wrong. They decided to kill her, like, which I guess is a possibility, but even that is like there's only two scenarios in this situation. Those people in the house or someone broke in. And if someone broke in, how did they navigate that house? How did they navigate
So
through the basement window to a house
yes,
that's 67,000 square feet? It has 18 rooms in this house. This is
right.
not a small house. So you're
In the
telling
dark,
in
in
the
the dark,
dark,
in the dark.
late at night, and find the right bedroom.
And 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 also John Ramsey said he set the alarm.
In
You have to
old
be yeah,
interviews, he stated he set the alarm. I think it was in the original interview that they had done right after, but in future episodes or future interviews, he has said he wasn't sure if he set the alarm.
why now? Why go back and forth with it? You try and tell me you're not exactly sure what you've done the night of your daughter disappearance and night of a murder.
Right.
For me,
It's not like
it's
they
not like
ask
it.
you what you ate for dinner 2 weeks ago where you're like, I don't remember, but this is a
Agreed.
significant moment in your life. This moment, it's like when they talk about like these huge historical moments where you will always forever remember where you are. There is no way this man does not remember if he set the alarm or not. And not only that, someone would had to have turned off the alarm to let the
Right.
police in and the friends in. So if it was set, you should know because someone would have had to turn it off.
Wow. Good point. I didn't even think about that. I didn't think about that. You're right. After they call the cops. Now, all right, let's go back to so there's a lot of layers going on in this case right here. So Patsy Ramsey called 911. The 911 operator. Now at this time, they took Burke Ramsey to
No,
their friend's house. No,
no,
they said
not
Burke
at
was
the,
still sleeping.
they
Burke
said,
was sleeping. I'm sorry. Burke
so
was sleeping. I'm sorry.
the reason that she had woken up early, like earlier than everyone else, is they were supposed to fly out to see John's adults kids that were from his first marriage. So she was actually getting ready before she woke the kids. And like to be like they were basically going to take the kids out of bed, put them in the car, leave and fly to I think it's Minnesota if I remember correctly. But
Right.
so that's why she was up early. And at that moment when she said Burke was still asleep when she called 911.
Now, the 911 phone call that was released. The 911 operator herself heard. If you listen to the 911 phone call, you hear somebody in the background. Not only Patrick Ramsey's voice, but you hear somebody's other voice, another voice saying calling out JonBenet's name multiple times. Because Patrick Ramsey's calling out JonBenet and another voice is calling out John. Now you have three other people in the house at this time. There's Patsy Ramsey, there's John Ramsey, the husband, and there's Burke Ramsey that's supposed to be sleeping. Now it
And mind
sounds like a
you,
child
Burke is
voice at
only
this
9 at this time.
right.
He is pretty
So
young at this time.
it sounds like a child's voice in the background screaming out John Benet's name.
Yes.
Now another red flag. We're not accusing anyone at all. But the story has so many holes. The stories that the Ramseys released to America, first to America, then to the cops, because in history they didn't go to the cops and tell a full-fledged story. They went to the interview. They did multiple interviews before they actually gave the police officers the full-fledged statement of what happened at night. So if Burke Ramsey is sleeping during this whole time, and that if that's Burke Ramsey's voice on the 911 phone call, why did you lie about Burke Ramsey being awake or sleeping at the time? What's going on?
Right.
What's the reason?
And I mean, okay, maybe she didn't realize he was awake at that time. Or she was maybe in distress. So that one I could maybe see.
No, but they said in a statement that he was sleeping. To
Right.
to Up to now, John Ramsey, if you ask him this question, he will say that Burke was sleeping. They
Right.
stuck to their actual statement all these decades later. So again, there's only three people in the house. Actually, four people in the house. One of them deceased, which is JonBenet. So who is screaming out JonBenet's name in the background? It's definitely not John Ramsey's voice. And
Right.
it can't be Patsy Ramsey because Patsy is talking at the same time to the 911 operator. So it has to be Burke Ramsey. So would you say that your son is sleeping at this time?
And if she did scream in that moment, is he really gonna be sleeping through the chaos that is now happening? Yes, his room was on the opposite side of the house from John Benet's, and the
This is another good
staircase in
point.
which she would like found the ransom. But maybe he
How
wouldn't have
about
heard it. It is a
this?
big house, but I would think in all this commotion as she's
Well,
frantically running, screaming, running to see if John Benet is in her room.
how
And
about this? The first person you go to, you only have two more people in the house. John Blaze missing. The first person you go to is John, the husband, and the second person you go to is Burke, or vice versa.
and and
There's no
trust
way Burke will be sleeping. She'll wake him up. She'll wake him
we're
up
looking, seeing if John Benet's in his
and
room.
ask, have you seen JonBenet? There's no way you want to allow your son to sleep through this whole chaos that's going on. That the first thing you're gonna do is ask him, where is your sister?
Right. Or
No one talks about this.
I'd be checking to see if she's in there sleeping because you do hear where little kids like one wakes up
Well,
in the middle of the night and they get in bed with their
yes,
sibling because they're scared.
yes,
Just like they do
yes,
with your parents. So was that a common thing? I don't know. It's
yes.
not documented. But my first
But again,
instinct as a parent myself is I'm checking every room in the house. Like I'm making sure, granted, I mean, finding a ransom note, but I'm like, if I'm really frantically worried and like, is this real or not? I'm checking everywhere. I'm checking under beds. I'm checking
well,
closets.
let's
I'm ripping that
let's
house
go to
apart trying to find my kid to
let's go to
verify if this
common
is true or
sense right
not.
here. Let's go to common sense here. You don't have to be a parent or not be a parent. Just use the common sense over
Agree.
here. There's no way, there's no way you're not gonna actually wake your son up and say and ask him, where's John Bonet? Your sister's missing. And there's no way that person will after that is gonna fall back to sleep. This is BS. I'm
Right.
sorry. This is BS. There's no way.
Right.
There's no way this story flies, period.
Right. And it only
Now,
took the cops like 3 minutes to arrive on the scene. So
right.
So even if you say, okay, well, the cops woke him up or the sirens woke him up, okay, there's still a gap of time that even if he did wake up from like the sirens coming in and she was still on 911 and he came down, it'd still take him a long time to get down to the main level where they were. I mean, this is a huge house. Like, I mean, there's plenty of blueprints of this house you can look at and see how large this house is. And if we go on the intruder aspect, someone would have had to know exactly what room to go in. I mean, that floor alone had four bedrooms, one for the two of John's kids that are from his first marriage, and then
Right.
Burke's and John Benet. So you have four bedrooms at a minimum on that floor, not
So
including
this so
bathrooms.
there's two things involved over here as well. So we eliminate the usual suspects. Who could actually have access to the house and who will know the actual layout of the house? Because we're not trying to put the blame on anyone. We're trying to solve this case or try to help solve this case or try to get some type of information to solve this case.
And
Because again,
truthfully,
you have go ahead.
try to like really theorize, like eliminate, like how is this possible? Is it
So
possible that it is an intruder, or is it impossible it was in the house? Is there another scenario that no one's thought of yet? I mean, new eyes always bring new ideas and
right.
investigations, and I mean, I'm glad that they have teams still looking at this and they're bringing in new people. But this case has went on for so long, and at this point, any help anyone can bring is a benefit because this person that did this is walking free amongst us.
So the question I have, do they have a maid?
Yes, they had questioned her. They had tested her, I think it was her boyfriend or maybe it was her husband, I'm not sure. His DNA against the DNA found on JonBenet.
Right.
And they ruled out that. They also ruled out there was a man in town that dressed up as Santa who had been like on a regular involved in like at the mall where she had performed and all of that. So she had many interactions with this Santa. I don't know that the documentary that I had saw actually gave his name, but he was ruled out. I think there may have been even like a gardener that they had ruled out.
Well, the reason why the maid, because the only thing I could think of was the maid actually could have
She should know the
um
layout of the house.
the layout of the
She would know
house,
where things
the
are.
actual, and probably the actual the password for the alarm system to open it to open
True.
the but the problem with this, right? So let's just say it's somebody this close that knows the layout of the house, right? Now, and the person's supposed to come through the basement window and go all the way to the top floor where JonBenet is at, to her bedroom.
Middle floor. The parents were on the very
Middle
top.
floor. The middle floor,
So it
JonBenet's
was
room.
basement, like kitchen level, kids' bedrooms, then the parents' room. So
So
we're
you
talking
having a
four levels of rooms that
do you
someone would
have
have to navigate.
you have a well thought out, calculated plan going on. If this person has done that, a calculated plan, a person comes in through the window in the basement with no footprints at all outside the window. There's still cobwebs that was not touched,
Disturbed.
disturbed when a person climbed through the window, supposedly climbed through the window. There's no other footprints inside the basement. If I'm not right or wrong, is there footprints inside the basement?
They did find afterwards, they did find a print, but it was undetermined if it was because it was like a work boot. So it was undetermined if it was from police officers when they were searching the crime scene or if it was actually from the intruder.
So let's go back
They,
to this
it didn't,
intruder claim.
it didn't match the people that were currently on the scene, but we also need to talk about that and like how this investigation
Let's
went wrong from the beginning.
So the story itself is wrong. Let's put it like that. Let's get back to the story that Ramsey's acted. So this is exactly what we're talking about right now. The story itself is wrong. Now, again, this calculated intruder does all this, turns off the alarm system. By the way, if the intruder turns off the alarm system to get inside the house, why does intruder don't go straight to the front door? Why go to the basement?
Right? Good point.
Usually
Yeah. If they
the
have
alarm
access
is
to the
where the
alarm code,
door, the usually alarm code is right by the door. So you open the door, you turn off the alarm, you're right inside the house. Why you have to come back outside the house, go through the basement, go back up through the living room to the second floor to JonBenet's room? This makes no sense at all. Now, if this truth is that calculated to actually do all this stuff, why not the intruder just has the ransom note ready to put it down on the floor? Why use Patsy Ramsey's notepad and pen to write the ransom note? The whole story's wrong.
right. And the other thing
Uh,
is you could say this window was left open, but we're talking December in Colorado. And if you
right.
live in a cold state, you know no way you're leaving a window open in December because your bill would see it and you would notice and you make sure that stuff is secure and shut because that is a huge expense, regardless of how much money you have. And yes, this is a well-to-do family back then. But you can't, the window was just left open. Not only that, this window was inside like a storm drain
Well,
kind of looking thing with a grate on top of it. So someone had to
well,
know
you have
that
to
window
understand.
was there. Someone
Well,
would
you
have
have to
had to,
understand. This is what the actual the essence of the case is this. The person came through the window of the basement and went to John Bonet's room. This is the whole essence of the case. The whole core of the case is false. Again, if the alarm system is set, you're not gonna go through the window without setting off the alarm.
right,
Period. You can't go through the window while setting the alarm. Now, if you have the code to the alarm, you go through the front door, open the front door, turn the code off, and then go straight to John Bonet's room. You save
right.
a
You're
lot of time by
you're
doing that.
entering and exiting the same entrance.
Right. So their claim is that that person entered through the basement and exited through the basement,
Right,
not through the front door, through the basement. There's no reason to do this if you have the passcode to the alarm.
right.
Now, next thing is How many people knows that John has $118,000 bonus? Now, why would the intruder slash kidnapper slash murderer slash rapist, because she had DNA, male's DNA in her underpants, why would that person leave a ransom for exactly $118,000? This is a well-to-do family that has more money than that. The $118,000 is just the bonus. Why not just round off to even $1 million? $1 million. Again, $118,000 in 1996 is not a lot of money. You're gonna put yourself through all this risk, everything, to turn up the alarm code, go back to the basement, come back up to the basement, come back down the basement of JonBenet, kill JonBenet, rape JonBenet, and leave through the basement and not get any money at all because you don't have JonBenet. And how about this? If you kill JonBenet and rape JonBenet, at least take her body with you to actually keep the ransom going. With that right there, with her body laid right there, you're not getting any money at all. All
Right.
what you just did is for nothing.
Right.
It's
You
for
you
nothing. What
came out empty-handed for all of that work.
what
And
criminal? Go ahead.
not only that, I mean, for not that much money.
What criminal does all of this? Put their life, put everything in danger for all this, and doesn't even not only for the $118,000 for $0,
Right.
$0
To go to jail for the rest of your life.
for $0.
And not only that, John Benet was like she was performing in the mall. She was doing beauty pageants.
Right.
They were before they went to the dinner party, she was riding up the street in her bike with her brother and by herself. Like, if you really want to kidnap her, why have to do it in their home?
Thank you.
And this is a day and age too where kids were more freely roaming around and there was less
Thank you.
paranoia of kidnapping.
This before social media. This before kids are locked in their rooms playing on their games. You know, this is times when kids is roaming the streets and the kidnapping rate is high. It makes no sense for you to
And
actually go through
this,
all this when you actually kidnap her in the mall or on the street when she's riding her bike.
right.
If
And
you're not calculating, if you're not calculating a criminal to do all this stuff, you just save yourself a whole bunch of energy, a whole bunch of time, and a whole bunch of risk for actually breaking and entering in a house. Why do this?
And not only that, this is a town that had one murder a year. Like
Right.
this isn't a town where your kids are in like a dangerous area. This is a upper
Thank
class
you.
community. Like, so them letting her ride the bike wasn't out of the question. It wasn't an area that has a high crime rate. It was a very well-to-do community. So, like I said, they let her ride her bike that day because she got it new for Christmas prior to going to the dinner. So, if you're going to do it, why are you doing it where there's so much complicated steps to get navigate through that house while they're in the house, all of that?
Now, if JonBenet was an adult woman and heavily resisted this in the struggle, I will give at least some of this a pass. I'll give that she actually got killed by accident by some type of object, something like that. But you're talking about a 6 year old that can't be more than 60 pounds. You know, and how about this, which we didn't touch upon yet? The duct tape that was taped over JonBenet has Patsy Ramsey's clothing fibers on inside the duct tape that's on JonBenet.
Yeah, but
Now,
we do have to go back before we dive
let's go
into
back then.
that because we need to
Go
talk
ahead.
about the friends being there cleaning. The crime scene
Okay,
is extremely contaminated. You have John touching her body. You have all these friends touching the ransom. You have
right,
all these people walking around in this house,
so
unsupervised, really.
right,
And after John brings up John Benet's body, Patsy lays down and like basically like is on top of John Benet's body as whatever emotion took over, whatever it may be. So like we've contaminated the body by the dad, the mom, the floor that all these people have walked on, all these random people
right.
being around. And I'm not saying that the police purposely did
Well,
all of
let's
this, but the police were untrained for the fact that there was
well let's
one
paint the
murder
picture.
in the year.
let's paint the picture. Let's paint the picture over here. All right. So all right. So we spend so much time on the night of. Let's paint the picture of well the early mornings of. So let's paint the picture later on the morning. So Boulder, Colorado police arrives to the house, which is actually a crime scene, and the
But
Ramseys.
they think
Go
they're
ahead.
arriving to a ransom, not a murder. So
Not
there's
a
a
murder.
little bit of
Yes.
a naive walking into that home
Right.
thinking we're dealing with a ransom,
A
not
kidnapping. A
a,
kidnapping.
oh yeah, I'm
Yes.
sorry, a kidnapping with ransom
Yes.
versus a murder.
Right. So now the cops is on the scene. Um, they actually trying to get together what's going on. The Ramsey's telling them their story, that the ransom note and everything else. So the main thing is that on the ransom note, it says at 10 o'clock a.m. that they'll be receiving a phone call. Now, by that time, and again, I'm not trying to knock the Boulder, Colorado police force at all. Because again, I know you only have one it's a low level crime area. You only have one murder per year. You don't have that much history of actually tackling stuff. Um, but when 10 o'clock comes around, what happens?
There's no phone call and no one's concerned that there's no phone call.
Majority of police actually leaves the house. There's one cop that's left there to monitor what's going on. Her name is Linda Art. Linda Art's there, and she actually later on tells her version of the story in her interview. And 10 o'clock comes around. The Ramseys are they frantic and pissed or question the cops? What's going on with the phone call? There's no phone call that happens. So what John Ramsey's doing at this time? He's looking through his mail. Your daughter is missing. There's a ransom that was found. You have police inside your house waiting for the phone call at 10 o'clock. You're looking through your mail.
Which
What's Patsy doing this
now,
time?
which
What's Patsy
now,
doing this time, though?
I think she's just kind of hanging out with the friends. But
So, so
it, but
go
in the
ahead.
new interview with John Ramsey, he states he was looking through the mail because he was looking for another note from the possible kidnappers. So his after her statement came out of questioning why are you just calmly looking through mail? He then states that he was trying to look for communication and that she should have been doing it because that's her job. So it's become kind of this attack on the police for not doing their job that John has come out more recently, but not back then.
Well, again, let's go back to very simple, right? You don't have to have kids, or you don't, or if you're a parent, especially a parent, off the back, common sense, you don't be frantic the whole time, so you don't need a cop to actually guide you what to do or how to act. The first thing you'll be reacting is that where's the phone call? Now, going back to the time period leading up to the actual ransom phone call, the Ramseys brought all their friends over to actually come together during this time period of looking for JonBenet and trying to figure it out. What couple does this? When you're actually your daughter got kidnapped and somebody's going to ransom, why would you invite your friends over to the house to clean up the house
I
with
don't think they
chemicals?
I don't think they were invited to clean. I think their response was that they were there for moral support. But in reality, they were
Okay.
cleaning
Oh,
and contaminating the crime scene.
so again, going to the Boulder, Colorado police dropping the ball in here. You don't have people come inside a crime scene, whether
No.
you realize it's a murder scene or not. So it contaminate the whole murder scene, and then or crime scene, and then on top of that, start cleaning with chemicals, wiping away evidence, and then top of that, how about that? I'm going to go back to the cops. You actually invite all your friends over to come out for moral support. You don't know who has JonBenet. That's
Right.
the last thing you probably
And
think about is bring people over for moral support.
and
You're probably calling people at best. Hey, listen, is JonBenet at your house? Is JonBenet at your house? You're not inviting them over to your house,
right. And I don't want it to look like we're or sound like we're bashing the police. I think they were inexperienced.
right?
I mean, we're talking about years ago. They had very low crime rate. There was only one murder previously that year. They did
Right.
not have a homicide team. So I'm not blaming it solely on the police. I think the police made a big mistake not controlling the scene, as in not allowing other people in there,
Well,
locking down JonBenet or John and Patsy into like one room so that only if there was contamination, it was only one room. I think letting like obviously cops didn't do a thorough search of the house, seeing that her body was found in the house, and
right.
that stairwell was never touched until John went through that, or that door was never touched until John went through it. So I do think they dropped the ball. I don't think it was intentionally dropping the ball. I think it
No,
was
there's no corruption here. There's no
unexperience.
corruption. It's
Um,
inexperience. It's inexperience, and also it's just I can't let them go so easy as well
right.
because
I'm
no
not
matter
saying let
what
them off the
you
hook. I'm
are,
saying I don't think it was intentional that they dropped the ball on this case. But I do
well,
think
you
it is a
are a
big
trained
part
cop,
of what went wrong in this case.
of course, and not for nothing. The Ramseys didn't help at all. They actually
No.
made the situation much worse.
Right. So you have both sides kind of
Again,
corrupting and damaging any DNA, any fingerprints. You have two parties making significant mistakes. Whether it was intentional or not on the Ramsey's part, I don't know. But I'm telling you right now, with how important DNA has become, and granted, it's not like, I mean, we've always been taking DNA, but I don't think we all knew where DNA would get to in the last even 20 years. I mean, DNA has significantly changed, but don't understand why the parents wouldn't be like, do not touch anything, including that ransom note.
right,
You know that the person touched these pieces of paper.
right.
Why would you touch them? Like I understand her touching them to pick them up and read, but no one else would be touching them.
So 10 o'clock passes. Linda Art tells the Ramsey, hey, listen. And she herself has grown suspicious why the Ramseys not question about the phone call. Now, Linda Art was left alone at this time period, which is another um,
Misstep.
dr- dropping the ball from the Boulder, Colorado police that you had to leave one cop there to monitor the whole crime scene. But it's what it is. She's monitored the crime scene, monitored to see if they actually get the phone call. And she tells the Ramseys to look around, see if you see anything out of place or whatever. And they proceed to do it. So now John proceeds to go straight down to the basement, which the cops never searched down the basement, at least that path on the basement during the
No,
whole
that door
search
was
of
never
operation.
opened prior to
Got it.
John opening that door.
Now, by coincidence, John goes down this door, straight down this door with his friends. I love their little laugh in the background when I say by coincidence, because it is by coincidence.
It's by
John goes down
coincidence
this
that
door.
he went to the exact room her body was found the very first time down the stairs.
Now, what does John does? Is John calls the officer and say, "Hey, listen, I found my daughter." Does he scream out? No, he picks her body up, bring
No,
it to
he
the top
unwraps
floor,
her, pulls the duct tape off her
unwraps her.
mouth, tries to untie her hands. Touching is pretty much everywhere you could possibly maybe have evidence, and then proceeds to pick her up and carry her up the stairs.
Right now, in the Linda Art interview, she says right there on the spot that she knew or she felt, because I'm paraphrasing, the killer was in the room right in the spot,
And
not
mind
pointing
you,
anybody out.
there was
Go
seven
ahead.
people in that house with her. Not just her, there were seven people. So, including John and Patsy, there were seven people in that house. So, it doesn't necessarily mean that it was them, But there were other people in the house too. Just throwing that out there. Like if we're really analyzing every piece of the detail or every piece of the evidence, it is possible that one of those other people could have also done this. If they're friends, they're familiar with the house, they had access to JonBenet.
Well, this is more than being familiar with the house. It's just really true common sense.
Right.
Going back to the intruder claim. The common sense is again the ransom note. The ransom note is the heart of the actual case. The ransom note makes no sense at all because again, why would you write a three-page ransom letter while you're kidnapping the little girl to get the money? The second thing is why you put exactly $118,000. The third thing is, why is it Patty Ramsey's pad and pen? And let's go
Um,
to the fourth thing. Let's go to the fourth thing, because there's multiple things. But I'm gonna go to the fourth thing. Why the Ramseys, especially John, said he put his daughter straight to bed when there's a bowl of pineapple in the kitchen with Patty Ramsey's fingerprints all over it, and you find pineapple during the autopsy of John Bonet's body. Why?
I'm gonna throw in one more thing.
So make this
It's
a fifth thing. Go
it's
ahead.
assumed that the duct tape, the paintbrush that was used to create basically the noose to strangle her,
Right?
all of it came from inside the Ramsey's house. There is
It
no
wasn't it
ex.
wasn't it wasn't it Patsy's paint set
It
that
was.
came out to be yes.
So every piece of evidence came from
It's from
within
the
the
Ramsey
house.
house.
The pen and paper, the paintbrush, the duct tape, they're pretty sure came from a roll they found in the house. If you're going to kidnap a 6-year-old girl,
Thank you.
why wouldn't you bring the supplies you need? Why is there nothing that they can prove that came with
You bring
from
you bring no
someone
tape,
coming in?
no tape, no rope, nothing, nothing. And the actual final touch of murder weapon, which is news that they actually strangled John Bonet, because her head was her skull was cracked, but that's not what actually was her fatal encounter. Her actual the noose that they put around that to choke her to death is why she died.
Yeah.
So the actual noose itself, from the paintbrush that they broke the pieces, put it together noose to strangle her, is actually from Patsy Ramsey's art set.
So I'm gonna throw out theory, but a
Go ahead.
theory
Go
of
ahead.
analyzing this case and really kind of trying to think out of the box because we've really focused on it's either an intruder or was someone within that house, mom, dad, brother, whatever. Those have been the main concepts. And the one thing that the Ramseys really want to say is that the DNA, because the DNA did not match anyone in that home. The DNA is the key evidence, which in a lot of cases, DNA is the thing that solves most cases.
Right.
So my question slash theory, what if that DNA wasn't from that night? So we know that DNA can survive inside of a victim, a rape victim, for 24 to 72 hours.
Right.
It was stated they had a party 2 days prior to Christmas. They went to this dinner party that night. What if the DNA is not even related to the murder? What if she was a victim prior to that and that DNA was left there under her fingernails in her underwear from the dinner party that they were at prior to coming home and putting her to bed? And coincidentally, she met her fatal encounter on the same night
Right.
by someone inside that house.
Maybe.
And that is why the
Well, it
Ramseys are
has to be.
pushing
Well,
so hard for that DNA because it clears their names.
agreed. Agreed. The DNA. See, the problem with the case itself that stumped Balderano law enforcement, the district attorney in Balderado, was the DNA. The DNA doesn't match anyone that they
Yep.
they actually tested,
No, no
so it
one,
stumped them.
and no
So
one in
the
CODIS, but CODIS is relatively new in the grand scheme
right.
of DNA. But it has been
So the
reran recently as well and still has never pulled a
Well,
match.
the DNA itself, they originally the assumption was the person that killed John Bonet was. There's a lot of assumptions. The first thing is everybody thought it was a Ramsey because again the case was just so made no
Bizarre.
sense. bizarre is a good word. That made no sense that actually this happened. And but what stumped them is that actually you have someone, a male DNA inside John Bonet and on her pants as well.
Yes.
Right? Wasn't it like
So
the
recent
go ahead.
recent and new DNA testing. They haven't been able to test touch DNA. So where your hands would touch a piece of clothing, they can actually get DNA from touch. So in recent DNA testing, with the new types of testing, it they did find the same DNA that matched the DNA found in her underwear on the outside of her pants, as if like someone was to pull down her pants, like someone
Right.
grabbed them, like where the waistband is to pull them down. And that matched the same DNA that was in her underwear. So she had to have been wearing the same pajamas, the same underwear at the time of that sexual assault, if it wasn't someone within that house, or did happen at a separate incident. But either way, the Ramseys are very focused on how do we figure out who did this? Let's get this DNA tested. Let's run
Well,
it.
again, so what we're trying to paint the picture over here is that let's just say that there are two different crimes that happen over here. There's one murder of John Bonet and one rape of John Bonet from two different people, or two different peoples, if you want to pluralize it. And that's why it stumped them because they
And that's
couldn't figure that
why
out.
this nothing really drives. And both
Right,
theories make sense because
right,
and they're so intertwined because if it's an intruder, it would make sense that there was an unknown DNA match. If it
right.
was the parents, the DNA doesn't make sense, or someone in that home, parents, brother, whatever. Because there was theories like maybe Burke had hit her over the head and they then covered it up, whatever the case may be. But the DNA has always kind of made it kind of create these two paths that neither path fully makes sense.
They don't connect. They don't
They don't
connect. That's why it don't make
connect.
sense.
And that's why,
Yes,
like, the out of the box theory is what if the DNA is literally from the dinner party that night, and
right.
then this tragedy happened at home after, and that DNA has actually nothing to do with the same case. Yes, she was still violated. That person still should be brought to charges. But did that person actually commit the murder? Because you can't tell how long
Uh,
DNA has been in someone. We know how long it survives. And
Well, also
obviously,
regarding to the crime scene itself, well, we have to go back to the crime scene, actual murder. They don't have a time period of what time John Bonet got killed.
right, they
Usually
have
cops have
10
a good
a.m. to
right.
6 a.m. Well, when they called
So
911, which was right before 6 a.m.
so let's just say, for instance, that the speculation is right because it's only going to make sense that the Ramses are the one that did this. We're not saying that they did it, but there's no time period from when John Bonet actually gets killed until they actually make the phone call. So if we had that time right there, it would have helped much more in concluding who actually killed John Bonet. Like if it was the parents, at least you got to see that, hey, listen, she got murdered at 12 o'clock and they finally made the phone call at 4 o'clock in the morning, which I'm just throwing it out there. I forgot
It was
what time they
6.
made the
It
phone
was
call.
like 5:55 or something. It was right about 6 a.m., a little before 6.
Right, right.
Right.
So
And
it actually closes the gap that it is the parents, but
right,
still in all,
right.
or
Or maybe make the
or
intruder make more sense that maybe they broke in. And I mean, like the cobweb theory, spiders can create a cobweb very quickly. So could it have been broke and by the
uh
time they took the picture it was rebuilt? Maybe, but we're dealing with a timeline from 10 p.m. to a little before 6 a.m. That's a huge
right
timeline that if and as a theory, and this theory has been thrown out there, is if Burke did it and the parents decided to cover it to protect their son, they had, say, from 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. to write the ransom, to
right
open that window, to
right
all of these things to make it make sense or align it, or if Patsy did it or John did it, they have all this time to be like, okay,
to actually
how do we put these pieces in to make the story fit and look like someone did it to come in the house.
See, the scenarios that they put together, the story that they put together, the Rams put together, the reason why it makes no sense because it didn't happen. Period. At least it didn't happen the way they actually said it happened.
Right.
And I'm not saying that
And we
they're actually behind their daughter's murder, but they're lying about something for what reason we don't know.
there's too many
What
inconsistencies in their stories
too many holes.
to not
Too
think
many
that
holes.
something is not 100%. Whether
There's no
they
reason to lie. There's no reason to lie unless you're trying to cover up something.
or
Period.
right, or they're trying to put their own scenarios together to try and point direction. I don't know, but like
Yeah, but
the
even if they put their own
possibility of
scenarios together, they trying to find out who killed John Bonet. They're not putting their own scenarios together and create a whole different story for what exactly
right.
happened
And
that night.
their behaviors are very fishy. I mean, they didn't talk to
It,
police for months, but they went on CNN and opened up about it, which they released a lot of information to the public about like even Patsy went go
before talking to the cops.
right.
The
Like
cops are the go-to people of finding who killed your daughter. You talk to the media months, or was it? I think it was like a year before they actually sat down and
yeah,
have a freaking interview with the police officers. You have for a year, over a year now, you actually prolonged the meeting because they've been trying to track them down and have a meeting with them for the longest, and they pretty much backpedaled the whole
right.
way through until they had no choice. They couldn't backpedal anymore to actually do the interview. Now,
Right.
now,
And with that amount of time, they had heard the theories because like one theory was that John Benet had a bedwetting issue and that maybe Patsy snapped because she wet the bed and finally hit her breaking point or that there was prior abuse. Like there were all these theories. So she had time to hear these theories and come up with a solution to the theory. Similar to like when Linda said it was weird that they weren't checking or it was weird that they were checking the mail. And now 20 years later, 30 years later, whenever the recent interview with her dad, John Benet's dad, where he's like, well, I was looking through the mail to see if the ransom or the kidnappers put in any more information on contact. And then accusing the cops. Like it almost seems like they had so much time to kind of come up with a contradiction or a reason or solution of
but
why they
even
behaved the way
even
they
their
did.
reason, even their reason or contradiction that they came up with, still didn't make any sense. How
Right.
about that? It still don't make any sense. It still don't make any sense that they wait a year to actually have it. Why are you waiting that long to try to get? It's been a year later, and you finally talk to the police about this about what happened at night.
Right.
Why? Why? What's the holdup? You're supposed to be volunteering this.
Right.
You're supposed to be on a police case. What's going on? Where is my daughter's murderer? Why are we having to find this person? Because it's obviously that somebody that is a local person, the person
Right.
that knows the Ramseys.
And there
Go
was
ahead.
another case, like two towns over, and the girls, John Benet and the other little girl, were in dance class together, and an intruder had tried to like get the little girl. The mom walked in on it and stopped it, and he didn't actually do anything. He was questioned on the case. He was ruled out. There were a number of other suspects that were ruled out over the time. Like there was one guy that actually said, I was with her when she died and I loved her. He didn't, his DNA didn't match. So like they have done a very good job of like trying to look at other possibilities. They looked at sex offenders in the area to see if maybe a sex offender was there, and could have done it. And like they ruled like the DNA did not match the Ramseys. The handwriting did not match the Ramseys. But there's still just there's a piece that they haven't found yet and that's why like the theory of could the two separate incidences actually be the solution? And that is why it doesn't make sense. And it may never make sense, but they definitely contaminated the crime scene, which also makes the Ramseys look very guilty. Like, why are you having people clean your house? Why are you touching the body? And I can't put myself in those shoes of how you would feel in that moment. I don't want to
Right,
ever be in that. I don't want anyone to ever be in that moment. But
right.
I would also hope that, like, in that moment, there's a part of you that's like, hey, I need to not do this because we need to
Talk to
catch who
talk
this
to your
is.
talk to the officer, and you're supposed to give blow for blow detail what you see, what's going on. Should we do this? What communicate with each other? Yeah,
Right.
the cops dropped the ball, but you're not communicating with them. Like, is this okay? What should we do? This and that. And if you were to communicate with them, the cops off the bat, with common sense, would have said, no, you shouldn't bring your friends over.
Right.
You shouldn't clean up the house. And you, with common sense, you should know yourself, watching X amount of movies or whatever in the past, because you're old enough to realize that fingerprints is so important over here.
Yep. And
Well,
the interesting thing about this is this did go to a grand jury,
right,
and they did review the case to decide
right,
whether to press charges against Patsy and John.
yes.
And the jury did vote to press charges, and the DA decided not to because, from my understanding, they weren't sure if one of them did it and the other covered up, or they did, but
So
they
pretty,
did lean to actually try to press charges against JonBenet or John and
pretty,
Patsy.
pretty much the DA suspected that the Ramseys have some part to do with their daughter's murder, but they couldn't actually put
Can't prove it.
together the storyline, the actual. It's pretty much based. Well, it'll be a case based on speculation, which is which is unbelievable because not for nothing. How many cases are based on speculation and they actually send a person away from murder? This
Right.
this based on speculation is truly based on the Ramsey's actions after the fact of the 911 phone call. It paints a picture of a couple that is covering up something. Now, what that something is, we'll never know, or we do know, but can never prove it.
Right.
What now?
So one other thing we didn't touch on, is Patsy has since passed away herself in '06 due
Right,
to ovarian cancer.
right.
And John is, like I said, he's been doing recent interviews. He's really pressing to find whose DNA it is. So hopefully this case will be solved at some point. But unfortunately, it is so corrupted not corrupted, that's not the right word, but the crime scene was so contaminated and the inexperience of the police department that it may never be solved. We may always wonder what happened to this little girl that faced such a traumatic, fatal encounter, and there may never be anyone that is brought to justice for her.
Let's cross our fingers. Let's see. Let's see that we do find the person that actually brought this girl to our fatal encounter.